Also, welcome to our episode 146 on our YouTube channel, Trends Literature Series. I'm Neeta Aneja. I'm your host today. Sometimes I really get attracted by the cover of the books before I start reading the book. And I must show you all this book. This is such a fantastic looking book, I must say, and compliments to both of you for this. And I must tell everyone that Swinging Seventies, Star Style and Substance in Hindi Cinema by Om Books International has one of the most beautiful covers. I already feel like making a big poster out of it. I did mention to Nirupama yesterday. But jokes apart, this book is all about the magic of 70s, one of the most influential decades of Indian cinema. This book definitely brings together a collection of essays to celebrate the happening decade and put together so lovingly by two of the most passionate film buffs that I have come across, Nirupama Kotru and Shantanu Ray Chaudheri. They have created a gateway, I must say, so that we can enter the decade of cinema like no other, nobody else. So 44 author, it must have been definitely a Herculean effort to put them all together. Let me quickly welcome Nirupama and Shantanu, and definitely we need to bring the magic of 70s on this platform today. Shantanu is an editor, journalist, and critic. He loves poetry, music, films, and books, and writes on these in a number of publications. He's an author of 2 previous books. Nirupama is a senior civil servant and an avid film buff, has been a director in the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, apart from managing film units such as NFTC and Films Division, has been also the Joint Secretary Culture and has been actively involved in a lot of cultural and literature and theater and film activities, has been writing articles on film and magic. So welcome, both of you. It's such a pleasure to have you with us today.
Wonderful to be with you. Wonderful to be on this. Thank you so much for having me and Nirupama on it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Neeta. Thank you for the warm welcome on a warm day.
Oh, yes, it is. I still have not ventured out, so I think I'll be venturing out for the
It's sizzling like the 70s. It's sizzling like the 70s.
So this song
that time?
So Neeta, this song from Namak Haram was playing in my head. Actually, there are a lot of election-related songs in the 70s. One of them is from Namak Haram, which goes, "Wo jhootha hai, vote na usko dena. Note bhi de, par vote na usko dena." It's a cute song.
I'm sure.
Even Andhi, for that matter. Salam kijiye, Ali Janab aaye hai, wo 5 saalon ka dene hisab aaye hai.
I think with your love of music.
Even in Satyam Shivam Sundaram, where there is hardly any scope for elections, the song which Zeenat Aman sings, it's a beautiful song. Sorry, I'm hijacking your agenda.
Not at all. This is all about today, the sizzling magic of 70s. Please go ahead.
I know. So I couldn't help, remembering this. Pandit Naren Sharma in the lyrics of this song. Suni jo unke aane ki ahat. So Zeenat Aman sings, "वो अपने नेता, हम उनकी जनता, हम हमेशा नाता निभाया हमने." She's welcoming MLA on the stage. So topical, so relevant, I tell you. Roti kapda aur makan. Again, very important, democracy. So,
I must tell everyone, Nirupama is a great singer and she's got great love for music. So I suppose that's why we are starting on such a great note today. And she was, I think, one of the first ones to vote today. So that's why all songs on the election.
Yes.
Shantanu, I'd like to begin with you. Very importantly, I mean, this has been really been on my mind ever since I read the book and ever since I came to know that both of you have edited this book. How did you really get together writing this book? How did you really come together? I mean, this is a unique book.
Before you tell her, I just want to say, I mentioned this in the acknowledgements. Guess who brought us together? One of the finest actors are Soumitra Chatterjee. Now you go, Shantanu.
Yeah, I read that.
This has been an idea in my mind for a while, but it was too big for me with all my to get to doing it on my own. And Namita Gokhale suggested that, you could do something on these lines. And I was looking for not much to, not progressing much till there was this event that I held for a book that I had done at that point of time, a book on Soumitra Chatterjee
Okay.
by Shuman Ghosh. Soumitra Chatterjee had passed away, and Shuman Ghosh is director for 5-6 films. He had done a book with me, and which we were releasing in at the Habitat with a film screening. And that's when I first met Nirupama. I think we were friends on Twitter and Facebook, liking each other's posts and all. And then after that evening, I just off, and she mentioned wanting to do something on Balraj Sahni and all. We got started talking, and that wasn't progressing because of some rights issues. And then I just randomly mentioned to her, do you want to do this? Do you think it's possible to work out a system whereby we do something on the 70s, get the best writers from the country who are writing on cinema, and cover as many aspects of 70s? And she said, something, as she mentions in her introduction, Neki or Pooch Pooch or something, the English equivalent of it. I don't know so I don't remember that exactly. And then we started talking. That's all. It just took that meeting at Shuman Ghosh's thing, her interest in Balraj Sahni, which did not fructify, but it's still at the back of my mind. I've just made some more developments on it. But what you start walking down a path and something else falls, and the path turns and you take that turn and something else, you land up somewhere else. And that's what happened. She came on board. And
if Shantanu had not invited me for that event, the book wouldn't have happened, honestly. That's why I mentioned Soumitra Chatterjee being the catalyst. And one of the first people I remember discussing after Shantanu told me, I told him, sure, let me think. I talked to Syed Mirza Saab. Syed Mirza Saab had been chairman FTI when I was director in INB. And he was so happy. He was so enthusiastic. He said, "Are fantastic. ये तो करना है. You must take." I said, "Sir, why don't you also come on board?" He was writing 2 books that time. He's a very good writer. So in fact, he released a book about Kundan Shah last year.
Okay.
He was writing 2 of his own books. He said, "I'm really sorry, but I'm buying your book. Abhi se, I'm guaranteeing you." And it's such a fine period. You must write.
Absolutely.
And it covers 3 kinds of cinema, commercial blockbusters, my kind of arty, small budget film जो कोई देखने नहीं आता था hall में, and middle of the book cinema. And he said, ये तो इतना अच्छा idea है. So his encouragement, I said, चलो अब तो full steam है. And slowly, we started getting, जैसे बोलते हैं ना, yours, mine, and ours. Shantanu's friends, my friends, and our common friends, film writers. We just kept contacting them. They kept joining, which is why I referred to Majroo Saab's famous line, "मैं अकेला ही चला था जाने दे मंजिल मगर लोग साथ आते गए कारवां बढ़ता गया." So it actually became a कारवां. People kept joining. From 20 initially, कैसे double हो गए पता ही नहीं चला.
44. That's quite.
Because we didn't feel like leaving out. I mean, there's such brilliant film writers in India, I tell you. Such a wealth. And then my industry friends.
Yes.
So,
and of course, there's so much to write about the 70s. There's so much. I still feel that there are aspects that we haven't covered.
Absolutely.
So.
And I also feel that there may be, as I was discussing also with Nirupama yesterday, I'm sure now you must be having, few that you've left out that maybe you'll keep it for the second book or something. As you were mentioning about Mr. Raina as well.
Absolutely, for a reprint. I'm just waiting for the reprint to happen. We are already in talks about 3-4 aspects that we might have missed out on, and not that we didn't try. A couple of them we did try, but we didn't get the kind of material that we wanted for those aspects. So if we get them by the reprint, we'll include them also.
So Neeta, we have to strike a balance between catering to any average lay reader who's like a film enthusiast, and also say a film student, and which is why when Kaushik Bhaumik came on board, he was a JNU professor in School of Art and Aesthetics. So he was saying, मेरे को ये ऐसे लिखने का मौका नहीं मिलता. I'm so happy you made me write it. Film students will read all their essays. So I'm so happy to Imagine if film students can refer this, if this can be in libraries of FTII, Satri Ray Institute in Calcutta, Film and Television Institute in Pune, and libraries across India. I'll be so happy if it's like a reference material when you want to, like you said, open a portal into
Yes.
70.
Yeah.
So it'll make us happy.
And not
It's
only
like
that, I
our
also
generation.
feel that, the kind of material it has, the kind of data it has, the kind of, you've also put in those questions also at the end of each chapter. So I was thinking, I love quizzing, I've done a lot of quiz competitions and everything. I was feeling I'm going to do one on 70s. I'm going to take this book as a reference and really educate people on this, because there's so much that you put together. And you can make out it's been a Herculean task for you. And Nirupama, I read somewhere that Mr. Raju Irani said that your head works for the civil services, but your heart is for the art. So you've indeed put together such a big thing with Shantanu. So how did you, to start with you, and then maybe Shantanu will come in later, how did you really kind of pull all these books together? I know हम चलते गए और कारवां साथ में चलता रहा वाली भी बात है, but फिर भी how did you? I mean, there's so many diverse people in this book, from renowned journalists to directors to somebody like Amitabh Kumar. You've taken him there. Then you have Mohan Akash ji. You've done an interview with him. Then Subhash Ghai. I mean, people who didn't write the essay, you've interviewed and put it in the conversation form. I think that's also a very interesting part of the book. So you've kind of not taken a particular format in mind, but you've kind of जैसे जैसे होता गया वैसे वैसे आप करते गए.
Shantanu and I discussed this from time to time when we first, started listing out topics and themes, and then we divided them into these sections, icons and idols, themes and tropes. So then when I told him, I want some of my industry friends to write. The reason for this was not just कि celebrity hai to lana. You see, these are the people who should own the book. I told all my film industry friends, ये तो आपके लिए है ना. You are working in this profession. I love that profession. I respect artists from the bottom of my heart, both as a in culture and in films. I have the deepest respect for anybody who's creative, because I know it's not easy. You can't handle commerce and creativity, let me tell you. तो मेरे जितने अच्छे friends हैं वो सारे commerce तो बहुत ही खराब है उनका. They are very bad, poor filmmakers like Rajat. Poor मतलब गरीब, जिनके सेट पे मुझे चाय भी मिल जाए तो बहुत है. I call them my garib filmmaker friends. They are brilliant. They are some of the brilliant minds, like Shriram Rajan, who bhi FTI के alumni है. Rajat Kapoor है. Brilliant, absolutely. Varun Grover, I came to know. He's a very nice guy, brilliant lyricist. तो एक लालच होता है ना, तो उनको भी इन्वॉल्व करो. नहीं करो तो मुझे बाद में बहुत मलाल होता. Ketan Mehta is somebody known to me from a long time again. INB days, all of them became close to me because, I stood by the industry. I had a lot of work, policy matters. I fought for them, whether it was censorship or, animal welfare board के साथ खूब मेरा झगड़ा हुआ है. Health and family welfare के साथ smoking disclaimer को लेके झगड़ा हुआ है. So I stood by them. So they have also become very close friends, So I mean, I really get a lot of love and respect from them. So I said कि आपको तो आना है. So none of them should say no to me. Yes. So Ketan Mehta, like I said, Syed Mirza sir अगर होते free वो जरूर लिखते. Raju Irani was really busy with Dunki. So he felt so bad, but he used to call me and encourage. Vidhu Vinod Chopra got very busy. He's a very close friend. He's like my elder brother because he's from Kashmir. So we have a very strong connect. So he was terribly busy, and some of them are bad writers. They can write beautiful scripts, especially Raju and Vinod. But when it comes to writing an essay, you need somebody scholarly bent of mind, like Rajat, like Ketan Mehta, like Sriram. You should read their essays. You love them because they add so much value, because they are people who are influenced by the cinema. Vishal Bhardwaj, another dear friend. Yeah. So they have been influenced, and they are brilliant minds. They are somebody all of us are proud of. Very creative. So उनको छोड़ने का तो सवाल ही नहीं था ना. It's like I have these friends. This is a book about film. How could I not involve them? So it was. No. सुभाष भाई साहब से मैं मिली हूँ पहले बहुत बार. Listening Woods उनका institute जो है, I've written about it. It's really nice of him to put his passion into training, because you have only FTI. So I went to him. He was so happy to show me around, and he loved talking. I said, मैं आपका interview Shantanu and I discussed. We thought, why mess with that format? let people enjoy the whole
Yeah.
conversation. उसका भी
Yes.
अपना मजा है, you know.
अरे उसमें
Why
बहुत कुछ चीजें थी. Subhash Ghai,
बहुत
I came to know for the first time that he's acted in movies. I didn't know that. Only through your conversation. Yeah.
And not necessarily, like people like Rajat and Shriram, they are not necessarily 70s people, but they made films much later. They acted in films much later, but there's a definite influence when Rajat writes about Duvida. It's a different when he talks about sitting in the front seat in a car with money call on the in the back seat. It's a different feeling that you get from the page. You know that.
Absolutely.
And of course, Sriram is so deliciously, and that wicked in that article, and his closing twist in the tale is.
Yes, we'll not be discussing the tail part. Let people read and find out.
He's a Vijay Anand fan. You know his first
and his whole essay is written in that format. The story ends, and then of course post credit there is a twist.
He's amazing. And Vishal ji, his guru is Gulzar Saab.
That reflects upon the person, how they have ended the stories, carried you through. Somebody's a storyteller, they have written it like that. So different nuances or different people's personalities.
And these are people who, unfortunately, their films didn't get an audience at that time. Even Shyam Nicholson's films.
Yes.
कौन जाता था देखने? हमने ये सब फिल्में, there used to be one small hall in Shakuntalam in Delhi, if you remember. And we were in school. There was no way a school kid can go on their own, and film festivals का तो पता ही नहीं होता था. We were all too young then. So the only way you got to watch a film was when your parents took you. And these were typically blockbusters. Amitabh Bachchan की film लगी है, चलो. But at least saw that. Our kids don't know all that excitement. बच्चों को black ticket क्या होता है पता ही नहीं है. I was laughing and telling somebody yesterday, black में देखी है ना? They said, हाँ, ऐसे कोई होगा ही नहीं हमारे generation का जिसने black में एक बार नहीं देखी हो picture. Because that was the craze. 25 rupees की ticket 100 में. I remember very well.
खरीदते थे, हम खरीदते थे, बिल्कुल खरीदते थे. हमें देखनी है तो देखनी है. और मूवीज देखने जाते थे, उसका कैसेट जो होता था वो कार में चलता होता था. शोले हम देखने गए, सब कुछ उसका चल रहा है, फिर जाके मूवी देख रहे हैं. So those were times of fun.
We have 3 pieces about cassettes and all. Jayarjan Singh का भी लिखा है, Bobby Singh ने लिखा है. Very good pieces about how we used to listen to films. और फिर शोले का बार घिस जाता था कि हमारा LP रिकॉर्ड में. कितने बार सुना है. I know all the Sholay dialogues by heart. Let me tell you. You ask anyone. Basanti, Jay, Veeru, Gabbar.
मुझे तो उसके भी याद है. This guy who says कि my sons got killed or something. Remember?
Imam Saab.
I think Shyam Pinnacle chapter was also very good. I think it was written by Asim, right? Asim. I have done an interaction with him on his book Irfan Khan. Yes. Even Gautam Chitnani's book I've done. He's written a chapter. Chintamani.
Yes.
So coming to you, Shantanu, how was it with you? I mean, what was the emotional part? I mean, both of you are such passionate film buffs. How was it going through for you? Journey of going through this book. So you were like right now we can tell our children, we can tell you so much and we can feel nostalgic. They need to learn. So how was it with you? How the emotion?
Yeah, it is like, a lot of the contributors in this anthology are people who discovered the 70s in the 80s and 90s. They're not necessarily 70s, unlike Amrit Gangar, who lived it firsthand, or a Satya Saran, who was young enough to know that generation. Satya's got a terrific essay on journalism, and she knows that firsthand. A lot of us are looking back on 70s from the perspective of the 80s. So it's a nostalgia for a time I have not known, I have not lived. It's a strange kind of nostalgia, which is what I begin my introduction. There's a German word for it. I'm forgetting that now. That nostalgia for a time that you have not lived.
You mentioned that you were much younger that time, and you've not really.
So, but I moved to Delhi from Assam in the 70s, late 70s, and I caught the end part of it. I remember being taken to watch Kala Patthar in a hall, and Khoobsurat in 1979-80 in a hall, and all of that. So I caught that portion, and I used to see my dad get tickets those days. I, of course, got tickets in black later in my life, when Ram Lakhan and Shahenshah. So I got a sense of that. Watched the Shahenshah lines for a mile long, 2 mile long Shahenshah line, and standing there and marveling at it. And, it used to be different, and fights breaking out at the box office window. Those things have gone out of that. I've written extensively on that, that single theater experience. And also all of that was there. So my thought was, like, I had always, one of my regrets was I wasn't young enough in the 70s to experience. अच्छा, जब डॉन का वो लाइन लगा हुआ था, कैसा रहा होगा, या जब रजनीगंधा इतना बढ़िया चल रहा है, and everybody is talking about रजनीगंधा and all of that, वो क्या feeling रही होगी. So me and my brother is a music freak. Like, there is nothing about music that he doesn't know. A huge collector of LP vinyls and all of that. So we keep talking. Our thing is that music, that era, and all of that. And I remember watching Sholay in 76, 77. I don't know how they allowed me at 8, 9 years with my mother, and my mother asking us, "Aankhein band karo," when he's about to be chopped off. His hands are about to be chopped off. I remember that. I mentioned that in my essay. Then this Hera Fairy scene. Those experiences are gone. Like, you won't have a theater now anywhere in this world probably where स्क्रीन पे पानी, बाहर बारिश हो रही है तो स्क्रीन पे पानी इस तरह से आ रहा है कि ऐसा लग रहा है अमिताभ बच्चन और विनोद खन्ना स्नेक डांस कर रहे हैं. So these are experiences that have stayed, small time theaters and all of that. So all of this was in my mind, and I would have loved to do this book on my own. कि इतने सारे experiences हैं about 70s, but then I realized the better way is to go about asking. So like every aspect that I mentioned. So Deepta Kirti Chaudhary has an essay on the single screen experience, the first day first show का जो एक experience होता था. So of course he hasn't lived it personally, but he has talked to people about that. Then my own piece in it is a piece on how I got my grandmother to love Hindi cinema. हमारे time में my grandmothers and all used to be very anti-Hindi cinema. But by the time she had lived till her dying days, she had lived with me, and she had become a convert to Amitabh Bachchan and Hindi cinema. So that whole journey through that, and getting Satya to write on journalism, the journalism of the films of the 70s cinema journalism was a different league. And then of course getting people to write. Deepa Gehlot writes on Rajesh Khanna. Nirupama's essay on Shalimar. We talked about the flops of the era. The flops of the era are also memorable today. They Shalimar is a terrific story. What music, we still talk about it. So that came about. Gajra Kotari's thing. We talk about the Amitabh Bachchans and the big ones of the era. We kind of tend to miss out that Sanjeev Kumar as an important thing. And here is Gajra Kotari talking about मुझे वो बुढ़े बहुत अच्छे लगते थे. Like I was this young girl in love with this elderly man, and I was always afraid he's dead. And the first time she watched her in one of these films, and he dies in that film. I think it was Parichai, and she was inconsolable ki acha. And then she watched the next film, and he said, "Arey, ye to zinda hai." And then that kind of thing she talks about, and how Sanjeev Kumar, an actor who at the same time is playing the husband to Jaya Bahaduri, the lover of Jaya Bahaduri, the father of Jaya Bahaduri, the father-in-law of Jaya Bahaduri. In the same year, he has 4 films doing that. How many of us do that? How many actors? So we got these actors also sort of, and of course then between Nirupama and I, acha ye reh gaya, how can you have a anthology on 70s cinema without Lakshmikant Pyarelal? वो आया ही नहीं था दिमाग में. Then Nirupama used her persuasive skills, and we applied a pressure on Deepa Booty, and she delivered an essay in record time. This one, Nirupama herself did that. We said, we have talked about Amitabh Bachchan, Rajesh Khanna, and Dharmender, and the big ones, teen char aise we have talked about, and parallel cinema. But Amitabh Bachchan was Amitabh Bachchan because he had a string of really strong performers around. Vinod Khanna was there, Rishi Kapoor was there, Shatrughan Sinha was there. So, and she came up, Nirupama, with her very filmy sensibilities. Kahan hai re dusra? That chapter is called Kahan hai re dusra? That's a lovely, and it came out in 2 days. Like we barely had time, and I said we should cover, otherwise it will look, like how can you have an Amitabh Bachchan thing without Vinod Khanna being talked about, without Lambu and Chintu was a phrase of the 70s, and Amitabh and Vinod Khanna were huge at that thing. Then Shatrughan Sinha ke saath uska jo ye tha. So she came up with that. That's how you kind of got one essay after the other. Varun, the music of the era. We criticized ki acha 50s, 60s ke baad music became, it was all cacophony. It was not. 70s was one of the most innovative
your chapter on Anand Bakshi is amazing.
Yeah, Anand Bakshi is there. There is one that Varun Grover writes on the lyrics. But that's an essay to die for. That's an essay to die for. So all of that came together in one after the other, just fell into place, and we had thought of these bifurcations of sections, and I think it just one after the other, the essays came in, and one aspect covered, and so that's how it developed, and I think it's a terrific, wonderful contribution. Bobby Singh's essay on, one doesn't actually kind of think on these lines. Ki, acha, the vinyl and the cassette revolution kind of changed the way we viewed Hindi cinema. It made Hindi cinema, kind of. Then there's this lovely essay on by Krishna Shastri on the South Indian cinema getting influenced by. Hilarious, like imagine the hits of Amitabh Bachchan, Diwar and Suhag and Mukaddar Ka Sikandar being made in Telugu and Tamil, starring NTR, ANR, and all of them, and Shivaji Ganeshan not being a little bulky at that point of time, not fitting into the motorcycle, and so for his Mukaddar Ka Sikandar song of Rote Hue Aate Hai Sab, he has an Impala with him. He's sitting in an Impala. So it's hilarious, but it says so much about the reach of Hindi cinema. Imagine all of this
reach of Hindi cinema and reach of 70s. I think
so that's all, like one can go on. I can in fact go on and on about the stuff that we have missed out. I was telling Nirupama, and I'm all right with it. We can't cover everything, but the stuff we have missed out are also, it's a decade like none other. Vindananda writes in her essay that 800 films used to release on an average 10 years. I think she gives the figure of about 8,000 films had released in that decade. And
that's very important thing.
And
this is something because I talked to Swinging. He made his brilliant debut in 70s. So he told me storytelling was the forte, and this is something Vishal Bardwaj also said. He said stories, itni variety ho gayi thi us waqt ki people were accepting, and they were watching all kinds of films. That was a big thing, because from 50s, 60s में अलग trend था. 50s में दिलीप देव राज dominated. 60s में romance आ गया था. शमी कपूर, शर्मिला टैगोर, all the Shakti Samanta, color films, Nasir Hussain films. 70s में suddenly it expanded a lot, because middle of the road में Hrishikesh Mukherjee, Basu Chatterjee, Gulzar, different stories, very nice, down to earth, real. अब चित्तौड़ का hero आप अमोल पालेकर सोचो ना, very common man. Next door, Vidya Sinha as in Choti Si Baat and Rajnikanda. And then you had blockbusters also, revenge, drama bhi chal raha hai, violence bhi hai. फिर मनोज कुमार, this again a conscious decision Shantanu and I took, that थोड़ा सा हमें लगा थोड़ा arrogance है when it comes to popular cinema, many film writers have a tendency to look down upon commercial cinema. I have seen this, especially English writers.
Right.
So how can you ignore people like Subhash Bhai or Manoj Kumar?
You
They
can.
had so many hits, and forget the hit part. I don't want to go by that 100 crore business kiya to de achhi hai film. No. People connected emotionally. The kind of emotional connect people have with Manoj Kumar films, believe me, it is something people don't forget. मैंने रोटी कपड़ा और मकान फिर देखी recently. I started crying. It's a very emotional film. Even Subhash Bhai films are very emotional for that matter. कर्ज, he was telling me, कर्ज came in 80. He was saying कर्ज की story अभी भी लोग याद करते हैं. गुरबानी भी आई थी उसी वक्त. Gurbani aged the business of Taj, but emotional stories were accepted and people just went to the movies. और कोई entertainment ही नहीं था ना. This was the main entertainment. So people just became huge consumers of cinema at that time. And then the smaller heroes. We thought Abhijit Ghosh has written that. People like Vijay Arora, Anil Dhawan, Naveen Nishchal, they were also important. All the stories they brought to life are also very important for us.
Yes.
And then the ladies. How could we not have discussed on the ladies? So we have
Zinat
on one
Aman and
hand,
everybody.
Ramsay writing about Zinat Aman.
Yes, that's a very nice article.
And Ratnadi writing about Jaya Bhadri, the girl next door.
Yeah.
Because again, so important. So look at the variety of women. You have Smita Patil and Shabana, the stars of parallel cinema. You have middle of the road में Vidya Sinha जैसी actresses. Again, very simple, girl next door following Jaya Bhadri. And then you have commercial में Hema Malini, dream girl. People like her, glamour. Zinat Aman comes like a huge, breath of fresh air with Hare Rama Hare Krishna. So look at the variety of women. I mean, it's such a great decade to celebrate women. They may not be oriented as except for Rajnigandha, which was about a woman, about the agency given to a woman to choose between a career and life partner. But sheer variety is mind-boggling. I really love that in this decade.
You come to know how big was Jaya Bhadri in 70s. I mean, this is amazing. The kind of roles she's done for that matter.
Yeah, and one tends to forget, one tends to talk about her Gulzar roles, the Koshish and the Parichai. But look at her in Jawani Diwani. It's unbelievable. Look at her, what she's with a doll in her hand, and that all that jingy blingy wear, and she gave that sari. Even when she's wearing a sari in Jawani Diwani, the fashion statement she makes is like she's oozing oomph in a sari like that, and she's not yeah.
And I think the current generation needs to know about this more because
Niyati Bhatt, we
Jaya
also
with
thought
good
about
temper nowadays, but what she's done for the roles is amazing.
Yeah, and Niyati Bhatt has a lovely article on the fashion statements of the the fashion statements.
The
were
Bobby
something.
blouse and skirt. How can you forget the Bobby?
Yeah,
it was a craze. Every Darzi was stitching those polka dotted tops apparently and mini skirts. Dimple just blew everyone's mind. I've written in the preface also. She drove people nuts, honestly. I've seen this in Kashmir. Dimple Kapadia was like, people went mad. People have not reacted the way they used to react then. अब तो सारी actually अब cookie cutter से बनती है सारी फिल्में. I'm so sorry to say. They look the same, they sound the same. I mean, that time, look at the variety. Dimple came, she blew everyone's mind. Zinat Aman comes, she blows everyone's mind. I mean, these people are such icons, fashion icons. Amazing.
And the section 4 that we've already discussed a bit, in which this is about insiders' insights. So I really like the one that you've written with Vishal Bhardwaj and then Rajat Kapoor's article in that. So I think you've taken care of all these sections very well. So anything you guys have missed out? I mean, I know you've tried to cover a lot of aspects of 70s. I know you've covered some, you've lost out some.
Music, actually, since I'm crazy about music, अभी तो music और lyrics बहुत कुछ है दिखना. बहुत कुछ aspects है. I'm sure. Parallel cinema maybe there were so many wonderful filmmakers coming about that time. So they deserve.
We would have loved to have an essay on the cinematographers who influenced the generation. In fact, one of our contributors kind of fell ill and could not deliver on, the sound designers and cinematographers. K.K. Mahajan is a brilliant
You
pioneer,
mentioned about K.K. Mahajan.
Yes, I've mentioned that we have missed out on him. We've missed out.
Sound record.
Yeah, and the music, when we talk about the music, and now we are talking about Manthan with it's being releasing, it's going to release. You have a music director like Vanraj Bhatia. He deserves if R.D. Burman and Lakshmikant Pyarelal deserve an essay of the 70s for what they made the 70s. Vanraj Bhatia deserves to be there just because what he did in that parallel, what we call the parallel cinema, the music that he created, Maragao, Katapare, and all of that, so that of course we missed out.
Songs of Bhumika, amazing. Tumhare bin jeena lage ghar mein.
Lage ghar mein, the music of Junoon. So of course there are, and I'm sure like in a decade like that, which had this variety, from Manmohan Desai also making a film, and Satyajit Ray also making a film, Amitabh Bachchan also acting in a film, and Nasiruddin Shah also making a film. Zeenat Aman at the one end, Rakhi and Jaya Bhaduri in the middle, and Smita and Shavana. So it's impossible to include everything, but I'm very aware of. Now I look at it and I'm very aware of the things that we've missed out on. We'll correct that. And inshallah, the book will go into reprint soon. There are enough.
I'm sure it'll go into a reprint, and we would also see some more chapters added to it. Or maybe, since it's already so thick, you'd have a second book. When you mentioned Satyajit Ray, I can't but stop myself from talking about Mohan Agashe's chapter, where he puts that letter. That was so amazing.
He said,
how did you get the letter out from him?
He himself shared it. I went for his shoot, in fact.
Yeah.
He said that compared to what, look at this, I'll show you what Ray gave me. Compared to this the way they are slave contracts. He said all our
slaves from Africa, he said.
Slaves from Africa, they are inspired. The contracts are inspired by them. Because he was so critical. He said it takes somebody like Satyajit Ray to write a letter like that and say, will you please consider this? And then बार-बार पूछना आप ठीक हैं क्या?
मैं आ जाता हूँ, खुद आ जाता हूँ, है ना?
Yeah. And in fact, yesterday I don't know why I mentioned Shantanu. Do we have a chapter on Shatranj Ke Khiladi? We were just thinking of the best. I said, yaar, ek chapter sirf Shatranj Ke Khiladi pe hona chahiye. What a film! What a contribution against all odds. We haven't discussed that yet. But apparently, Shatranj Ke Khiladi and Junoon came in the same year. And no less than Shashi Kapoor, he called Shatranj Ke Khiladi a disaster. I mean, everyone in Bombay was trying to pull down Shatranj Ke Khiladi like anything. There was such bitter, amazing
Rahman, right? In that, Rahman? Rahman was there, no? In
Shatranj Ke Khiladi. No. It was Amjad Khan plays Wajid Ali Shah.
Yeah.
Syed Jafri and Sanjeev Kumar are the two Nawabs.
Right.
Based on Munshi Premchand's story.
Yeah. I think instead of Amjad Khan, I'm remembering Rahman as that character.
Yeah. No. So the way they made that film, that deserves a book. Of course, Suresh Chatterjee has written a book about it, but it was quite remarkable what he did with Shatranj.
Yes.
Mohan Agashe was important. He'll also bring a bit of humor because of the politics he mentions, because there was an influence of Bengal and there was an influence of West Marathi and cinema and Marathi theatre. तो अच्छा है, वो time theatre और cinema का link is बहुत strong. So that's something we wanted him to talk about, and he did.
One chapter I must mention is Shantanu's chapter on Rakhi. That was very nice.
Yes,
because not many people, we used to like her so much, but I think she's not remembered so much. But
yes, I think because she went out of the system, the main role system, pretty early. Barely in 1982. In 82, 40 years ago, she's at the prime of her life, like, looking like $1 million.
Oh my
She's
God.
playing the lover to, if you have seen Bemisal, which came out in 1982, she's looks like $1 million. And she's playing the lover to Amitabh Bachchan there, the wife of Amitabh Bachchan in this Anushanda, Barsat Ki Ek Raat. And then she doesn't have any qualms about playing Amitabh Bachchan's mother in Shakti that same year.
Yeah.
It takes a huge in an industry like the Hindi film industry. It takes a huge where you are typecast. Once you get typecast in a role, which is why I admire somebody like Sharmila Tagore. In 1969, she's all of 25. She's the mother of a child, just Saif has been born, and she agrees to do Aradhana, where she not only gets into that Roop Tera Mastana kind of very, very sexy thing, she also agrees to play the mother to a superstar in the making like Rajesh Khanna. So that kind of, so with Rakhi also, tremendous, this year is the 50th year of 27 Down, a film that I think that's a film that deserves to be written about. It's one of the
I just want to say that,
greatest,
yes.
like
That's
so you know so the way that her performance in that film is in such a contrast to her performance, say, in Kabhi Kabhi. So she was as much a part of and with Amitabh Bachchan, we talk of the Rekhas and the Parveen Babis and the Zina Tamans,
And Rocky
but
was magical.
she has the number of roles she has, and in each role, she is not playing down to Amitabh Bachchan. In every other woman who has acted is with Rakesh, there's a certain reserve. That's a certain thing that even Amitabh's character kind of holds Rakesh's character in a certain respect, which is not always there in the others. So I think, Rakhi is, and she epitomized that middle. She was not the glamour girl. She was never part of the, unlike Jaya Bhaduri, who had somebody like Rishikesh Mukherjee backing her. Rakhi did not. Rakhi made it entirely on her own. She was not glamorous like Zeenat Aman. The one glamour thing that she did, Mukaddar Ka Sikandar, I think did not come through. She could not carry off that glamour thing. But she was brilliant in, and then she moved to the mother roles, and of course later she became the Nirupa Roy sort of equivalent with her Aayenge Mere Karan Arjun Aayenge and Ram Lakhan Aayenge and all of that. So I think she deserves. She's brilliant. Like
the heroines, I think, deserve lots and lots more essays. Really, honestly,
yeah,
we can write one book only about the women.
yeah,
Amazing. All of them were so versatile and doing mother roles. Wahida ji also, Sharmila
yes,
Tagore, Amar Prem.
You just can't stop
Vahida
talking about all
ji,
these great people.
Vahida ji was playing Amitabh's heroine in, I think, Mahan, right? That song they
yes,
did.
yeah,
Then in Trishul, she is the mother. So
yeah,
so versatile. Sharmila Tagore played a mother, like he said, in Aradhana, and then Amar Prem. They were very glamorous also, and they were doing glamorous roles, normal roles. They were like really pioneers compared to today's heroines. There are
Yes.
very few of
So
them
much
take
of variety, so much I mean, they're so prolific and so much of
absolutely.
substance, I must say.
Yeah.
yeah,
That's why I said the stories were amazing. The range of stories, you look at them, no?
Mhm.
Range of stories, amazing. That really deserves. I mean, youngsters need to really know, and I hope they watch some of these films. Up to OTT पे luckily availability है इसको.
Mhm. So, but as you said, if this book is into, some libraries and everything, and it should invite a lot of curiousness. I think that is how it should, because it has to be passed on from our generation to them. So
the next
important for them to know what they've missed.
absolutely, you should.
One thing which I really wanted to ask you, Nirupama, was that you've also been, I think, head of the censorship and the government policies shaping the movies. So how do you think it played in shaping the creative outputs of filmmakers in 70s? Was there anything like
Actually,
that? So shaping. You had
actually,
Zinataman there.
no,
Chetna
no,
and Ruby was there.
I'm planning to write a book on censorship. In fact, that last year I started, but then I stopped because it's a very hot topic and I have to be very careful, otherwise I'll have many defamation suits against. So, 70s was actually very amazing. I don't know how these films passed through censors with very few cuts. Like Sholay. Sholay, of course, we know that thoda violence cut kiya tha end में. When the climax scene is there, I will not discuss it now, otherwise all the novelty will be lost. I want people to maybe we'll later put another chapter because Ramesh Sippiji couldn't write. He was wanting to contribute, but he's busy with his own autobiography. So maybe we'll do that later. But the kind of violence, and not just violence,
Yeah.
the kind of themes. I'll tell you one film. I was on a tour recently and I managed to watch it. There's a movie called Havas. I don't know if you heard about it. Okay, it's Savan Kumar that has
Seems
directed
like
it.
a familiar word. I don't know.
Listen to the theme. Listen to
The,
the
the
theme.
famous thing is Teri Galiyon mein
If
na
you hear,
rakhenge kadam. That song
yes,
is
if
more
you
famous
hear
for
the
that.
theme, I want today's kids to think about it. The heroine is Bindu. She is playing a nymphomaniac. Okay. She can't help it. She has a condition. She needs men. To satisfy her lust. This is the theme. And it
Imagine.
passed through the censors. And she kills her husband, actually. And then she falls for a younger guy who's Anil Dhawan, who's also dating her daughter, who's Neetu Singh. These films will not be made today. Which filmmaker will make such a film? Tell me about a middle-aged woman being the heroine who has a havas, some condition. She has to, fulfill her lust, and then she kills her husband for that, and then she has an affair with a younger man. And ye chalti thi sari filmein. And so we have an essay by my friend Nandini Ramnath. She's the editor of Scroll.
Yes,
I write for her a lot. She's written an essay called Shut Up. So that's about all these bad women who were such versatile actors, who got such fantastic roles like Bindu, Arna Irani, and Helen. So Arna Irani in Bobby, she's a very important figure. She's, if you have seen The Graduate, Dustin Hoffman's Graduate, she's like Mrs. Robinson for a while. Very important. Then in Millie, she's a very seductive kind of, seductress hoti hai. She's Amitabh Bachchan's neighbor, and she has a very provocative dialogue. Again, hats off to Rishikesh Mukherjee for allowing these women to emote in this very dignified manner as equal to the Sati Savitri. So you have the Sati Savitri, the nice ladies who are very, wife, Sidi Sadi. Jaise Milli mein hai. Jaya Bhadri is, of course, the nice girl. But you also have Arna Rani, who's the bad girl in that apartment. But you don't judge her. The director never judges. Same way Bindu. She in Havas, she is the star of Havas. Okay. Similarly, Bindu in Abhiman. Beautiful movie. So she is like Amitabh's confidant. She offers him a drink, but she's not having an affair with him. But she's a very good friend to him, very supportive. So look at, again, hats off to Rishikesh Mukherjee. So giving women that kind of space in films, these were really ahead of their times, these film directors. I think these films were far ahead of their time. I mean, this is in 70s we are talking, almost 50 years back. But women take these characters very respected. Bindu, of course, in Mera Naam hai Shabnam, also in Kati Patang, and Tanjeer mein Mona Darling and all that. But she also had these amazing roles in Rishikesh Mukherjee films like Abhiman. I love her.
In fact, one of her greatest is in Arjun Pandit, Rishikesh Mukherjee's Arjun Pandit. If you have watched, it's one of those lost Rishikesh Mukherjee films. She plays Sanjeev Kumar's wife in it, and she's fantastic. She's got the whole expanse of aging from a young bride to an old mother. It's fantastic what Rishikesh Mukherjee made her do.
Arina Rani in Bobby, Raj Kapoor gave her such a nice role because she initially is almost trying to seduce this young boy, Rishi Kapoor. He was just 18. But then she becomes, again, she helps him. He helps him, escape and actually elope with Bobby. If you remember the story. So she actually becomes his friend and helps him. So, I mean, amazing kind of, films were being made. And I think censorship definitely that time was more relaxed and as far as violence and as far as, showing these films like seduction and adult themes. I would call them more adult, and
This was a
वो
very
था
important question for me
चेतना
because I knew her
चेतना
background. I said, what is her perspective on the
चेतना
70s?
रेहाना सुल्तान okay Rehana
Oh,
Sultan, if you remember, Chetna had such a provocative
yeah,
poster at
yeah.
that time. Chetna is about her, she's a prostitute. But then this Anilavan falls in love with her, and it's a very romantic story. She says, I don't want to change my lifestyle. I'm happy, I drink, I smoke, don't try to change me. He accepts her like, she is, and he sings this beautiful song, Mukesh ka, Main to har mode par tujhko dunga sada. And later she dies. Those were again mind-blowing movies, B.R. Isharas. So, ऐसे फिल्में चलती थी तब. Today again, बाद में ये बहुत घिसा पिटा हो गया, bad girl and all that. हंसते जख्मी थी उस time. But again, these were, I think they were ahead of the time. Rehana Sultan acted in a lot of movies at that time. Many of them were about communal harmony. I don't know if you've seen Shankar Hussain.
Yeah.
And films like Dil Ki Rahein. All these beautiful films. Dil Ki Rahein and Rihanna. Shankar Hussain and Madhu Chanda and Kinwaljeet, I think. छोटी फिल्में होती थी, beautiful music, and themes were so diverse and so nice. And women had a lot of agency, what we call agency. They had a voice, actual voice. You could hear different stories, different women. दस्तक देख लीजिए 70 में आई थी. Again, amazing, mind-blowing. Rajinder Singh Bedi, Rehana Sultan. So,
I think this conversation is definitely a masterclass by both of you. Talking, oh my
just
God.
that is so passionate. We can't stop. There's so many films.
But
I mean, उन 10 सालों में क्या फिल्में बनी हैं? Really,
कितना
every
कितना
year
मजा
is like a treasure. You keep unraveling, and it keeps giving you more.
But Shantanu, in 70s, we saw coexistence of commercial blockbusters, and we've already discussed that, and minimalistic art house classics. But do you think this coexistence is possible today?
I think it's been co-opted, yes, in the sense that
But this kind of open
a
coexistence.
lot of the Anurag Kashyap's, Vishal Bhardwaj, Dibakar Banerjee, this whole Abhishek Chaubey, this whole ecosystem is what they have got the best of both. The commercial elements, the elements that drive a film at the box office with the aesthetic aspects. In the 70s, what happened was a committed breed of filmmakers, Sham Benegal and all. They came out with brilliant films which probably did not reach the audience that way because the grammar and the language was not conducive to what was being fed to the audience. At the same time, Gulzar and Basu Chatterjee did lovely films, but they were not technically accomplished. Gulzar actually in conversations with me has said, ये विशाल sitting with Vishal, ये तो मैंने तो कभी विशाल की तरह फिल्में बनाई नहीं है. मतलब विशाल is a leagues ahead in terms of while making in terms of the technology of making films. So I think what this current generation has done is incorporated the aesthetic sensibilities of Gulzar, Basu Chatterjee. Basu Chatterjee's filmmaking was very basic. Look at. He'll just have one room, two settings, the same sets of clothes across films they are wearing because they did not have. So, but the aesthetic was so beautiful. So, what Vishal and this whole new generation of good filmmakers have done is they've taken that. They have taken the aspects from the Sham Benegals and the AK Beers and all of that, the cinematography and all of that, Usko, and they have merged it with the commercial sensibilities of a Yash Chopra or a Prakash Mehra, so and which makes them reach out today. Today, I think, particularly post the COVID thing, and in the last 10 years, the rise of the OTT and all, what it has done is exposed all of us to a lot of variety of cinema. Today, Manthan in this restored version will probably see more viewers than it did when it first released, because everybody is tuned into what Manthan is about. The kind of at that point of time, Sham Benegal goes to Khan with just Smita Patil and Shabana Azmi,
I
and
know.
they are
I
standing there inviting people. That classic photograph. That was
Their
what.
saris.
Oh,
That
yeah.
was Nishant.
So I think.
Nishant.
Yeah, and that was for Nishant,
Yeah.
But today, Manthan gets the kind of media in national press that makes it almost sort of aspirational for people to go into the
Correct.
screen. It's the same film, but today the presentation is going to be different. So I think yes, these people have married the diverse ये जो तीन diverse streams थे, the blockbuster, the commercial blockbuster, the art house, and the middle of the road. They have merged in the cinema of Vishal and Anurag and Dibakar and a lot of these. I know I'm missing out names,
Well, Chopra
but
was
yes, so they've come together, and I think that's a good thing. We are getting the best of three worlds, uh, and of course, technology has changed. Uh, the way films are shot have changed. It's
So,
all out there. It's there's a variety of cinema which probably we didn't have. There's a lot of acceptance of out of the box characters now. A decade, about 20 years ago, 30 years ago, a character like Queen wouldn't have been possible.
hmm.
Badhai
Oh,
Do wouldn't have been
oh.
possible. Wouldn't have mentioned, like you had the character in शोले. वो क्या बड़ा जेलर का बड़ा ये है मुआ वो that you know that's it's
yeah,
a
nice.
that particular character is gay, but you
Hmm.
won't, and the way he is effeminate it talks, but today that those characters have become mainstream. It's possible to have a film with Rajkumar Rao and
Yeah.
the top stars acting it out, Ayushman Khurrana. These guys
Yes.
have brought in a certain, you don't need to be a Dharmender and a Vinod Khanna anymore to be the hero. The concept of the hero has changed. So
Absolutely.
in the 70s, hero was big. Hero had to be Punjabi Munda, fair skinned, and all of that. Today, Rajkumar Rao, Ayushman Khurrana, they look like people you pass around, and that's more relatable. So I think there are very, these people have brought in a film like Bareli Ki Barfi. It's like, what a wonderful, it's a perfect, it's a commercial, it has got all the commercial elements, it's got its aesthetics in place, it's very well shot, incredibly written. So it brings the best of all worlds.
And not to mention the
Yeah,
Lapatali.
Lapata,
ladies.
Lapa,
Sorry,
Lapata
it has
ladies.
more
What?
viewership on Netflix than Animal.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yes.
More,
So,
Very hard.
more views.
yeah.
Coming to you, Nirupama ji, and your favorite subject, music.
Hmm.
Music from 1970s definitely continues to be referred in modern Indian cinema till now. So, why do you think these elements have remained so iconic from 1970s?
Like I was mentioning, see, 50s, my parents say 50s was the golden era. I don't dispute it in a lot of ways because you had people like Roshan and Naushad Saab,
Hmm.
right? I mean, look at the brilliant music of Pakiza, for instance, which is a 72 film, but Ghulam Mohammed had died, Naushad Saab before. Those are iconic melodies. Nobody can touch them. But 60s में फिर romantic आपका आ गया दौर, and S.D. Burman साहब was dominating. For me, my absolutely favorite music director from 60s is Burman da. But and this is an essay which Anirudh Bhattacharya has written in a book about SD and RD. You can't separate the father and son.
Hmm.
SD and RD were like, two parts of the same puzzle, and RD Burman already was helping his father compose. Anirudh is very sure, जैसे मेरे सपनों की रानी है आराधना में, he is sure that RD had actually arranged the music because Bauthagan तो RD का था he himself used to play Pancham, right? He has played for Lakshmikant Pyarelal songs also. So I think in those three and others probably he used to play the mouth organ himself. RD was already on the cusp of greatness. In 69, if we remember, Aradhana, super hit music. We also had Talash, beautiful music, S.D. Burman. We also had Pyar Ka Mausam, which R.D. Burman had composed for Nasir Hussain with Majroo Sultanpuri. Now, Majroo Sahib and SD Burman go back a long way, like songs of Sujata, Mere Bandhu Re and all. Beautiful partnership. They had lots of hits. I think many Devanand films, probably Paying Guest and all these. वो होते थे SD Burman के. Adi Burman had already started doing that kind of beautiful music with Pyar Ka Mausam. But 70s May, I think, was a breakthrough for him. And one of the films was, of course, 71 May. Look at I think I was just looking at the list. It actually blows your mind what R.D. Burman did, the kind of versatile music he brought into Hindi films. I don't want to go into details of the essay, but I'll just tell you a few films. I mean, it actually blows my mind when I even think about what all films he did. Kati Patang,
God.
Karwan, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Amar Prem. Then you have Mere
Jawani
Jeevan,
Diwani.
Jawani Diwani, Mere Jeevan Sathi, Ram Purka Lakshman. I mean, यादों की बारात चलता ही जा रहा है. You can't stop. It goes on, and each one was so different. In the same year, he is doing Hare Rama, Hare Krishna also, and Jawani Diwani also. How versatile can you be?
And Amar Prem also.
Amar Prem
Oh my
also.
God.
Amar Prem bhi kar rahe ho aap. Hare Rama, how prolific, how creative you have to be. Imagine, and completely distinct music. अब बताओ कहाँ से similar है Hare Rama, Hare Krishna देख लो और अमर प्रेम देख लो.
या और
You see the
75 में आप देखो
similarities.
ना शोले में he is creating महबूबा महबूबा and that, and he is also creating आंधी. He's also
गांधी है. और 75 76 नमक हराम का भी शायद आरडी का ही म्यूजिक है. एंड देन 75 आप बोल रहे थे ना. 75 में और कौन सी फिल्म थी मेरे दिमाग से भी निकल रहा है. I mean, it's just I get carried away. R.D. Burman, though, the way he came in, and Anirudh talks about his Navratnas, his music arrangers. Bhupender was the guitarist for him, and how one mistake created Chingari Koi Bharte. It was a riff, गिटार का रिफ गलती से टंग 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 हो गया और वो पूरा गाना ही चेंज हो गया. He had brilliant set of musicians who loved him, and abhi tak industry मानती है इस बात पे that the way R.D. Burman composed music, nobody did. He was a very democratic music director, and he had a brilliant lot of musicians around him who composed music with him. And आप किसी भी अच्छे म्यूजिक डायरेक्टर को आज ले लीजिए, जो मेरे फेवरेट्स हैं, कम से कम शंकर एहसान लॉय, Vishal Shekhar, and all these people, and Vishal Bhagat, they all are R.D. Burman Bhagats. They all know A.R. Rahman also. They know nobody can touch R.D. Burman when it comes to experimenting, bringing new instruments, whether it was that Irani Santoor या वो जो typical violins होते थे वो तो थे ही, मगर साथ में उसके उनके दोस्त थे शिव कुमार शर्मा संतूर वाले और हरि प्रसाद चौरसिया फ्लूट वाले. वो भी बजा रहे हैं, तो फ्लूट भी आ रहा है आपका. भूपेंद्र playing the guitar.
the way
Music,
the
Congo,
way
Bongo,
Gulzar narrated how that beat मास्टर जी की आई चिट्ठी पे जो बच्चे डेस्क बजा रहे हैं, वो एक उनके ही एक असिस्टेंट का पीठ बजा रहा है वो. So that sound is generated by hitting the back of this assistant music director that to get that sound of the beat. So he was experimenting. And Kaushik Bhaumik's article on the background music,
Oh my
he
God,
revolutionized
he's
background
done a great
music.
job on that
I'm
chapter.
telling you, Shalimar is a world-class album. Today also, I mean, I can throw a challenge to any musician around the world. If R.D. had been alive, he would have swept all the Grammys, I'm telling you. No doubt. कौन से लोग Grammy ले जाते हैं? You listen to Shalimar's, music, the interludes, whether it's the Countless Papers or others, these are world-class music pieces. There is no comparison. बिल्कुल कंपैरिजन नहीं है उनका.
और देखिए इतनी कोई टेक्नोलॉजिकल कोई एडवांसमेंट नहीं थी, आज की डिजिटल एज नहीं थी. They were taking all kinds of risks. What are they doing?
महबूबा में शुरू में वो आता है ना, you know how he did that, कोक बॉटल में ब्लो करके.
Oh my God.
Imagine. I mean, all the time innovating. कोई वो बजा रहा है ब्रूम पे ऐसे आवाज आ रही है. So because he was very democratic and he had a beautiful team who just loved him absolutely. So क्या music दिया है, just blows your mind. But you also had other people coming like Khayyam Saab and Jaidev, my favorite, absolute.
Yeah.
Salil Chaudhary, Salilda was still around, but I think ये सब Salilda और S.G. वर्मन के शागिर्द थे. R.D. Burman, Khayyam, Jaydev. Absolutely. Rajesh Roshan came into his own. Another lovely music director. Roshan Saab ke bete. So, the second generation by then which came in 70s was very talented. Very talented. Kanraj Bhatia bhi, of course, Shantanu just mentioned. And music is phenomenal. We just listen to one or two RDs and Naushad Saab ne bada ek baar critically kaha tha, 70s is all Pancham and Kishore. No.
Right.
And even
No.
Kishore Kumar was at his peak. What are we talking about? Kishore Kumar's contribution is amazing. People used to look down upon because they thought classically trained nahi hai, but you have to be really crazy to not appreciate what RD and Kishore did and the range.
And just imagine now, for the last 15 years, फिल्मों के नाम उनके गानों के नाम से बन रहे हैं. Advertisement jingles उनके गाने पे बन रहे हैं. You know, like so.
कितना बड़ा influence था music 70s.
30-40 years after they have passed.
आप गुलजार साहब की फिल्म से किशोर का गाना ले लो for RD, and then you compare it with Rajesh Khanna film. It's completely different. And then you come it with मुकद्दर का सिकंदर में ये singing for अमिताभ रोते हुए आते हैं सब. It sounds like Amitabh. When he's singing for Rajesh Khanna, प्यार दीवाना होता है.
भाई के पान बनारस वाला is another side of it.
It sounds like Amitabh singing. Then when he's singing for this Jitendra, the glasses, Musafir Hu Yaro, it sounds like Jitendra singing. And all RDs. What a variety. सारे अलग 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 किस्म की म्यूजिक चल रहे हैं, साथ साथ. So it was pretty. And Kishore and RD का team was really nice. Outstanding. And Lata ji, of course. Lata ji, it's a myth that RD gave his best songs to Asha Bhosle. No. His best songs are all duets of Lata and Kishore. अभी भी I tell you, सुकून उन्हीं से मिलता है आज भी. अब दो चोर जैसी फिल्म के गाने सुन लो, काली पलक तेरी गोरी. Beautiful songs there. Lata Kishore तो amazing. Amazing hits at that time in 70s.
I think आपको एक और book निकालनी पड़ेगी, Only the Music of 1970s. But there's so many things that you can have the subparts of this book into another book. Oh my God.
Trying to make playlists.
I think we can keep on going on and discuss this book. I mean, I have loved the book, I must tell everyone, and you should really buy this book on Amazon. It's being published by Om Books International, and you would love it the way I have loved. Maybe the last two questions about we have to discuss the cover. This is so interesting as I began my conversation on this. And also one more question, which we'll do after this, and then we'll come to the close of the conversation. About the cover, how did you decide on? I know you're getting comments all over. People will keep on reminding you about this. Yeah.
I think there were 2-3 options, but I think Ajay Mago, the editor, this was one of the covers he loved and he got creative. And we said, go for it. And then we put these posters. These are all mostly from National Film Markets, the posters. So we thought a nice collage will, be good. And then you have the single screen Liberty. And you have all the iconic figures like the vamps and the villains. So it is just
it conveys the zaniness, the the blinginess of that era, which was fun in its own way. 70s, of course, there's so much happening, but one of the defining, so what we call Bollywood today is what 70s cinema actually, we're referring to, all the song and dance. And I think the cover kind of encapsulates all of that. There's color, there's variety, there's that silvery thing, thoda sa over the top. There's this lovely single screen theater liberty in between. So all of that, I think, and Ajay Mago, so we went through a number of iterations. We were thinking of, one of my ideas was this brilliant Beatles cover for Sgt. Pepper's Band. It's a very psychedelic cover, which was the look I was looking for, because it's in many ways 70s is a psychedelic generation. For what came to the 60s, came to the West in the 60s, came to us in the 70s. So that kind of thing. So that Beatles cover album cover was on my mind, and then based on that, Ajay suggested, why don't you do something like this? And then we sort of Nirupama and I and Jay Arjun, we fought over the subtitle of the book. We had a really terrible thing on social media, tearing each other off. Like yeah, this is
Very passionate
so.
about film. So जहाँ creative लोग होते हैं जो होते हैं ना, दो
हाँ,
बर्तन
बिल्कुल।
बजेंगे तो creative लोगों में झगड़ा नहीं हो तो क्या होगा?
Same.
Yeah.
One
So,
last question to each of you.
in fact, I still remember Jay using a term which I said, Acha, what does this mean now? Like, in the first subtitle I had. So I said, oh, okay, wait, Baba, we'll work something out. Let me find out the meaning first, and then
And even the
so,
byline, Star Styles and Substance in Hindi.
Nirupama again,
Yeah, I'm sure.
all it's the Swinging 70s was mine, because in many ways it was swinging dam maro dam and all, where all
Yeah.
had a swinging, and it was also swinging from one extreme to the other,
Yes,
from
yes.
Arthouse to the commercial. So that was a given, and then we fought about the subtitle till the last moment, and till Nirupama with all her
Oh my
filmy
God.
alliteration coming into Star, Style and Substance. So so
So now with all the fights and everything, now you're at peace with yourself, both of you. So you can begin working on the next book. So together,
Yes,
that'll be nice.
in fact, I am actually got, the other projects that we were thinking of. Nirupama has been threatening to send her short stories, so which I'd love to take a look at. OM is the only publisher at the moment actually investing in fiction and short stories. I'd love to see that. The Balraj Sahni thing is something I know she loves. Balraj Sahni. I've purchased the
He's
Hindi
already giving you a go ahead
autobiography of it.
to this.
Balraj Sahni deserves many
And this is,
things. Yeah,
Neeta, this 2024 is a very important year. It's 50 years of Rajinigandah, 50 years of 27 Down, 50 years of the best Balraj Sahni film, Garam Hawa. It's 50 years of Ankur. It's 50 years of Shabana Azmi. It's 50 years of Sham Benegal. So
Oh,
it's a
fantastic.
very, very, yeah.
Fantastic. I think we are discussing a very important book at the right time. But thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure talking to you. It was, as I just mentioned, kind of a masterclass. I was totally sitting back and listening to you both. You have so much to still give to people apart from this book. And I'm really looking forward to all that. And many, many wishes with this book. I'm sure it'll reach out to many more people than you've even visualized. This will be into a reprint very shortly. And I'm sure I get to hear so much from both of you in coming times.
Thank you so much for doing this. It's been wonderful, for the support, for actually taking time out and putting this together. Thank you so much. Books actually need this. Books need to be talked about. It's no fun just putting together. It has taken Nirupama and I 2 years of our lives to put this together in the middle of a lot of personal and other issues coming up. So if it doesn't get talked about, if it doesn't get support from people like you and this kind of thank you so much.
Thank you. It's definitely
it's a connect with the reader. I really want. I mean, it's not जैसे फिल्म जो बनाते हैं वो तो कहती है ना कि टिकट्स तो बेचनी चाहिए, तो इसीलिए books we'll have to sell, but more importantly, this is my gift and Shantanu's gift. We are Generation Xers. It's our gift to Gen Y and Gen Z. We want these younger children, including like my kids and his, to actually understand what films meant to us, how they were a part of our lives, Abhi bhi hai, but the kind of connect we have when we hear a song from 70s of any film, the kind of emotions we feel, the kind of emotions we feel about a new film releasing, looking forward to it, planning कि hall जाना है, वो थोड़ा different था. वो multiplex में वो emotional connect उस तरह का नहीं आता. There's something you only understand. Kids will understand when they read these. First day, first show, क्या होता था, all that. So that's why we feel it's important for younger generations to understand this, reconnect, watch the film, listen to the music with a different mind, especially when you listen to R.D. Varman or the other music directors of that time, and then appreciate with limited resources what they did at that time. आज के ऑटो ट्यूनिंग वो सब नहीं होती थी, एंड लाइव ऑर्केस्ट्रा तब भी रहता था के लिए, नॉट लाइक टुडे सारा मिक्स कर लिया ट्रैक, यहाँ एक यहाँ एक यहाँ एक।
But I'm sure, I mean, you must be, both of you must be feeling so proud that finally the book is together and you've been able to get such relevant people together to write it for you. And you've been able to edit them. You've written such beautiful chapters yourself, both of you. I loved reading what you've done. Both of you written those lovely chapters in the book. And it's been a privilege, I must say, this conversation. I wish we didn't have scarcity of time. Otherwise, we would have just gone on and about this. There's so much more still to discuss. Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for that.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, everyone. I really hope you'll watch this podcast and do subscribe to our channel, Trends Literature Series. You'll find such wonderful conversations like we had today with the most wonderful authors. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Uh,
Thank you. Thank you.